Marcus Reed's shift always ended the same way: quiet floors, humming lights, and the faint smell of disinfectant clinging to his clothes. At 11:47 p.m., the corporate tower felt hollow, like a shell left behind after the people with important titles went home. Marcus preferred it that way. Silence didn't judge him for being a janitor or a single father just trying to make it through another night. As he pushed his mop bucket across the marble lobby, a sound stopped him. A low grinding noise echoed from the elevator shaft. Slow, strained, wrong. Marcus froze. He had heard that sound before. Months ago, actually. He had reported it, twice. Maintenance brushed him off. Old building, they'd said. The elevator doors slid open anyway. Inside stood a woman in a tailored navy coat, heels clicking impatiently as she stared at her phone. Marcus recognized her. Not by name, but by presence. Executives carried themselves differently, like the world was obligated to move when they did. The grinding grew louder. Marcus's chest tightened. His heart slammed so hard it drowned out reason. He dropped the mop without thinking and shouted across the lobby, his voice cracking through the stillness. "Hey, don't enter the elevator." The woman looked up, startled, irritation flashing across her face. "What did you?" The sound snapped sharp and violent. Metal screamed. Instinct kicked in. Marcus lunged forward, waving his arms. "Step back, now." She hesitated for half a second, just long enough for fear to replace annoyance. She stumbled backward as the elevator lurched violently, the doors slamming shut on empty air. Then came the crash. The entire building shuddered as the elevator plunged, sparks bursting from the control panel. Alarms wailed. Marcus stood frozen, breath ragged, staring at the sealed doors like they might open again. Security guards came running. The woman sank onto a nearby bench, shaking, her phone forgotten on the floor. She looked up at Marcus, eyes wide, searching his face. You saved me," she whispered. Marcus didn't answer. He bent down, picked up his fallen mop, and returned to his work. His hands trembled, but not from fear. From the terrifying realization that if he had stayed silent, someone would be dead. And no one would have ever known he tried to warn them. The knock came just as the sun crept through the cracked blinds. Marcus flinched. He had barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard metal screaming and felt the building shudder beneath his feet. He wiped his hands on his jeans and glanced at the clock. 6:18 a.m. Too early for anyone to be knocking. Lily sat at the small kitchen table, swinging her legs, humming to herself as she colored on the back of an old envelope. "Daddy," she said softly, "are you in trouble?" Marcus forced a smile. "No, sweetheart, probably just the neighbor." He opened the door. The woman from the elevator stood on his porch. She looked nothing like she had the night before. No heels, no sharp coat, just a simple sweater, jeans, and exhaustion etched into her face. In her hands was a white bakery box, held like a peace offering. "I hope I've got the right house," she said carefully. Marcus Reed, his stomach tightened. "Yes, can I help you?" She exhaled, relief washing over her. "I'm Elena Cross. I wanted to thank you." Properly. Marcus hesitated, then stepped aside. The house was small, worn but clean. Elena's eyes took it in. The patched couch, the stack of unpaid bills on the counter, the quiet signs of a life stretched thin. Lily peeked around his leg. "Daddy, who's that?" Elena crouched instinctively to Lily's level. "Hi, I'm Elena. Your dad is very brave." Lily beamed. They sat at the kitchen table. Elena pushed the pastry box toward him. "I couldn't stop thinking about last night," she said. "If you hadn't yelled." Marcus shook his head. "Anyone would have done it." Elena met his eyes. "No, they wouldn't." She explained how she demanded his name from security, how they'd tried to dismiss him as just the janitor. Her voice tightened at that. "That didn't sit right with me." Marcus looked down at his coffee. "It never does." Silence settled between them, not awkward, but heavy. Outside, a car passed. Life moving on. Before she left, Elena stood at the door. "I owe you more than thanks," she said quietly. "And I don't ignore debts." Marcus watched her walk away, confused and uneasy. As he closed the door, Lily tugged his sleeve. "Daddy," she whispered, "is she your friend?" Marcus looked at the empty porch. "I don't know yet," he said. But something told him his life had already begun to change. Elena didn't come back with gifts the next time. She came with a notebook. Marcus noticed it immediately when she stepped into the building's break room 3 days later. Same simple clothes, hair pulled back, expression serious. This wasn't a thank you visit. This was something else. You reported the elevator before, she said, sitting across from him. Not a question. Marcus tightened his grip on the paper cup in his hands. Twice, maybe 3 times. I wrote it up, talked to maintenance, and they told me not to worry about it. Elena's pen paused. Did anyone document your reports? Marcus gave a humorless laugh. I'm a janitor. I document things. No one reads them. That afternoon, she walked the building with him. Not behind him, beside him. Marcus pointed out cracked cables, faulty sensors, doors that hesitated before closing. Each time, Elena's jaw clenched tighter. She had signed off on budgets. She had trusted reports handed to her in clean folders. That night, she sat alone in her office, rereading old maintenance logs. Dates didn't match. Repairs were approved but never completed. Money had vanished into vague line items. What Marcus had done on instinct, she did now with intent. She dug. The fallout came fast. An internal audit was launched. Maintenance managers were suspended. Emails surfaced showing repeated warnings ignored. Marcus's name stamped quietly at the bottom of each one. When HR called Marcus in, his hands shook. People like him didn't get called upstairs unless something bad was coming. Instead, Elena was there. You didn't just save me, she said. You protected this entire building. Weeks later, the changes became real. Safety inspections, new protocols, and then the offer, facilities supervisor. Day shift, health insurance that actually mattered. Marcus stared at the letter like it might disappear. At home, he told Lily over dinner. Daddy's going to be home more. She dropped her fork. Every night, he smiled, voice thick. Every night. That evening, Elena joined them, not as an executive, not as a savior. Just a woman sitting at a small kitchen table, laughing at Lily's stories. For the first time in years, Marcus felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Stability, respect, and the quiet understanding that sometimes, when two worlds collide, they don't break. They build something stronger. The building felt different now. Marcus noticed it on his first day as facilities supervisor. The lights no longer flickered in the hallways. Elevators moved smoothly, silently, the way they were supposed to. People nodded when they passed him, some even greeted him by name. It wasn't just the title. It was the respect. He still wore work boots, still carried keys that jingled at his side. But his shoulders were lighter. He wasn't bracing himself for disaster anymore. At home, the change was even clearer. Marcus was there when Lily came back from school. He helped with homework instead of leaving notes on the fridge. He cooked dinner, burned it sometimes, and they laughed about it. The house felt fuller, warmer, like it was finally being lived in instead of survived. One evening, Elena came by after work. Not unannounced this time, she brought nothing but herself. I wanted to see how you were doing, she said. Marcus gestured around the kitchen. This is me doing good. They talked after Lily went to bed. About grief, about pressure, about the strange guilt of having more than you need, or not enough. Elena admitted she had spent years believing control meant safety. Marcus told her how shouting that night felt like stepping off a cliff. I almost didn't, he said quietly. But you did, Elena replied. That matters. Weeks later, the news broke publicly. The company issued an apology. Safety standards became a talking point, not a footnote. Marcus's name wasn't in the headlines, but it didn't need to be. On a Sunday afternoon, the three of them sat on the porch, watching Lily draw with sidewalk chalk. Elena turned to Marcus. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd stayed quiet? Marcus nodded. Every day. She smiled softly. I'm glad you didn't. He was too. Because sometimes courage isn't loud forever. It's just loud once. And once was enough.